BuzzFeed. We've all heard of it at one point in time. My first exposure was through their many quizzes like, which Harry Potter character are you? Or, how many Orbeez can you fit inside your rectum? That and their lists, which they are continuing to put out to this day. 50 pictures that make me grin uncontrollably no matter how many times I've seen them. 33 products under $20 that are so good, customers actually took the time to write a 5-star review. 15 feminists everyone should know. Boss bitches on deck. This is the kind of content that BuzzFeed proper is known for as a whole, and later on when I got into YouTube, BuzzFeed was basically the punching bag for a lot of the YouTubers I grew up watching. H3H3, Leafy, iDubbbz, these guys all made fun of BuzzFeed for their terribly corny articles and videos. And as recently as 2 years ago, people were making videos like BuzzFeed hates white men.
So today we're going to be looking at BuzzFeed and why they hate white men. So the first video is called 36 Questions Women Have for Men.
How does it feel to be the same as Donald Trump?
Oh, it's going to be one of those videos, isn't it?
You're exposed. You're exposed. You are exposed. Exposed, 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 exposed.
Well, for a while, people have been pointing out how poor the company is doing. From 2021 to 2023, the stock price declined 92% to the point that their shares were valued at less than $1 each. And a lot of people were glad about this because of how terrible their content has been. SunnyV2 ended up posting a video about BuzzFeed pointing out how bad they're doing.
BuzzFeed. 20 million subscribers, 20,000 views a video. The once thriving brand now displays a Google trend graph that looks like this, a YouTube viewership graph that looks like this, and a stock price graph that looks like this.
I mean, for years, this site was a joke to everyone but themselves. And now the joke is on them as BuzzFeed News is shutting down, with the company as a whole laying off 15% of their workforce. BuzzFeed is shutting down BuzzFeed News because it is not able to turn a profit, according to a memo CEO Jonah Peretti sent to his company staff Thursday. The digital publisher is laying off 15% of its employees, or about 180 people, across BuzzFeed News and its other divisions. Going forward, BuzzFeed will concentrate its news efforts in a single profitable news organization, HuffPost, which it acquired from Verizon in 2020 per Peretti's memo. The company's flagship BuzzFeed.com site will remain in place. While layoffs are occurring across nearly every division, we've determined that the company can no longer continue to fund BuzzFeed News as a standalone organization, Peretti wrote. Now, I think many people are quick to blame the shutdown on BuzzFeed being annoying, on all the criticism against them, but I would argue that that only raised their profile. Realistically, the divisive articles they were putting out were always going to have a good amount of criticism anyway, so by drawing attention to them, they did get hate, but the millennials that enjoy that content were also drawn more to BuzzFeed. Although that is an admittedly small group of people, considering that everyone I can find who talks about them hates them.
Today we're going to look at one of my personal favorite companies, I guess, BuzzFeed. Buzz, feed me more of that good content, baby. Shove it in there. That's a new slogan that I just made up for BuzzFeed.
But what a lot of people don't seem to realize is that BuzzFeed as a whole is not shutting down. In fact, far from it. They're still around, and they've reorganized a lot so that a lot of their news division, which is the part that's actually shutting down, is going to be working on the Huffington Post. They are laying off like 180 people, so those people need to find new jobs. But apart from that, BuzzFeed is still going strong. They are around, you know? One of the real reasons for BuzzFeed News shutting down seems to be an algorithm change from Facebook. In the wake of the 2016 election, there was a lot of talk about Russian influence through Facebook, as I'm sure all of you are very aware because we've been incessantly inundated with talk about bots and whatever else. Claims that the Russian government or other foreign adversaries had purchased ads and used Facebook feeds as a way to push propaganda to then get, you know, big orange hair guy elected or whatever. If you guys have seen anything from the mainstream media in the last few years, then I'm sure you've seen people talking about this, and I definitely have, because around the time that a lot of that was being discussed, I was in journalism school, so imagine the suicide fuel I had to go through. I mean, they've been harping on it relentlessly. Russian collusion, Facebook ads, bots, Twitter bots, all buzzwords that have been thrown around. Facebook and Twitter revealed evidence Thursday suggesting that Russian efforts to interfere in the U.S. presidential election are getting more sophisticated and harder to detect. The company said they have removed dozens of fake accounts and pages from their services. Facebook said the network of accounts it removed was in the early stages of building an audience. It was operated by people in Ghana and Nigeria on behalf of individuals in Russia. The accounts posted about topics such as black history, celebrity gossip, and fashion. And I'm not trying to say that this is a totally null and void idea. Like, there does seem to be some truth to the idea of Russian collusion. I believe it. But as a result, a lot of the mainstream media hounded Facebook to change their algorithm to change things so that this influence would cease, so that there would be less of this supposed influence, you know, undue influence from foreign adversaries on our people to push propaganda to us to get us to believe certain things that would make us not vote for, you know, Hillary Clinton and vote, in fact, for Donald Trump, right? The claim being made by many, including this Reason.com article, as well as a contributor to NBC News, as well as The Hill, as well as basically every journalist under the sun, is that this same algorithm change change that many at BuzzFeed and other outlets push for is also a major contributor to the death of BuzzFeed News. The claim is that by prioritizing real family and friends on Facebook as opposed to other off-site content, as a result of pushing away news content and pushing away like these articles, basically deboosting them in the algorithm, this also affected news organizations, obviously like BuzzFeed, who make a lot of their money through promotion on the Facebook algorithm. Basically, their business model for years was write an article, post it to Facebook, get people to click that link through Facebook, and then get offsite onto BuzzFeed where you can serve them ads and make money. That's how they make money. That's how I make money, through advertisers on Google, right? Advertisers through Google AdSense would show up on YouTube, and the way that BuzzFeed was making money was the same exact way, except on their own website. They fought the attention economy too hard without realizing it, and it potentially led to the death of part of their company. Media outlets in the post-2016 landscape sang a clarion song. The unrestricted, unmoderated nature of viral content on Facebook is a social hazard, and the world will come to an end unless Zuckerberg stops his users from reading and engaging with so much unapproved information. Then they got their wish. Facebook changed the feed to prioritize content from friends and family and punish offsite news links, and that was that. A massive drop-off in traffic for countless online news sites ensued. This was the murder-suicide of social media-driven news content. News websites killed the golden goose, or rather bullied the golden goose into agreeing that more eggs would be really, really bad for society. The mainstream media demanded more gatekeeping on social media. Eventually, social media erected said gates, and many fewer climbed over them to reach the online news landscape. So it goes. So basically the idea here, just to reiterate for a second in more layman's terms, is that a lot of social media outlets, a lot of, let's say, libtards online, push for more social media censorship, push for social media to suppress a lot of content, and as a result, they got their own content suppressed. An outcome that they definitely didn't see coming. Now, as for these BuzzFeed News employees, some of them will be laid off. Like I said, about 180 of them will be. Some of them will be moved to BuzzFeed proper, which does still exist, and some of them will be relocated to the Huffington Post. So for everyone saying BuzzFeed as a whole is done for, as far as I can tell, and according to BuzzFeed themselves, they still exist. The news division, their most serious and acclaimed, meanwhile, will die. The annoying feminist content, well, a lot of that was just from BuzzFeed, so we can expect way, way more. Now, if you go to any of the news outlets reporting on this, any of the TV stations with hosts talking about this, for example, The Hill, literally everyone knows who BuzzFeed is and have their own thoughts on it, right? Because really the big headline here is that BuzzFeed is shutting down, when in reality, BuzzFeed News is being shut down. Once again, sure, they're under the same brand as BuzzFeed, but they did have some decent articles and investigations, actually. In 2021, they actually won a Pulitzer Prize as a result of their reporting on China's internment camps. Then again, they were also widely criticized for their coverage of the Steele dossier, which is a whole other rabbit hole, but all you need to know is that it was a research report claiming collusion between Trump and the Russian government, which many consider dubious, and a lot of journalists were critical of BuzzFeed News for reporting. So BuzzFeed News did some decent work at the very least, and they are being shut down. You know, the BuzzFeed with the list and 10 questions for white men and 37 things white people ruin? Well, they're here to stay, at least for now. And according to this memo from Jonah Peretti, the CEO of BuzzFeed, basically he was dumping money into BuzzFeed News because he enjoyed it and it just wasn't working out. Hi all, I'm writing to announce some difficult news. We are reducing our workforce by approximately 15% today across our business, content, tech, and admin teams, and beginning the process of closing BuzzFeed News. Additionally, we are proposing headcount reductions in some international markets. Impacted employees, other than those in BuzzFeed News, will receive an email from HR shortly. If you're receiving this note from me, you are not impacted by today's changes. For BuzzFeed News, we have begun discussions with the News Guild about these actions. As part of today's changes, both our CRO and COO have made the decision to exit the company. I'm grateful to both of them for their passion and dedication to Complex and to BuzzFeed Inc. Christian will be with us through the end of April, and Edgar through the end of May to help with the transition. Marshall Lamartin, our president, will take on responsibility for all revenue functions effective immediately. In the US, Andrew is our new head of sales, and Ken Blom will continue his role as head of revenue operations. Globally, international sales will move under Rich Reed, head of international and head of studio, also reporting to Marcella. So I mean, based on this memo here, obviously I've never heard of these people before, but there's some serious company restructuring going on right now, and they're basically announcing that multiple people in high roles are leaving the company in addition to these layoffs that are happening, and they're basically restructuring everything to try and reassess their business model because they're just not making enough money right now. I have great confidence in this revenue leadership team, and the early plans plans I've seen from them to accelerate performance from our business org. We will share more on their plans in the business all hands next week, and we are extending an invite company-wide. The changes the business organization is making today are focused on reducing layers in our organization, increasing speed and effectiveness of pitches, streamlining our product mix, doubling down on creators, and beginning to bring AI enhancements to every aspect of our sales process. Oh, I just know Twitter's gonna love this. They fucking hate AI. They're gonna be pissed mad about this, about AI like being in some part of the journalism process. While layoffs are occurring across nearly every division, we've determined that the company can no longer continue to fund BuzzFeed News as a standalone organization. As a result, we will engage with the News Guild about our cost reduction plans and what this will mean for the affected union members. HuffPost and BuzzFeed.com have signaled that they will open a number of select roles for members of BuzzFeed News. These roles will be aligned with those divisions' business goals and match the skills and strengths of many of BuzzFeed News' editors and reporters. We raised this idea with the News Guild this morning and look forward to discussing it further. Moving forward, we will have a single news brand in HuffPost, which is profitable with a loyal direct front page audience. I want to explain a little more about why we've come to these deeply painful decisions. We've faced more challenges than I can count in the past few years: a pandemic, a fading SPAC market that yielded less capital, a tech recession, a tough economy, a declining stock market, a decelerating digital advertising market, and ongoing audience and platform shifts. Dealing with all of these obstacles at once is part of why we've needed to make the difficult decisions to eliminate more jobs and reduce spending. But I also want to be clear, I could have managed these changes better as the CEO of this company, and our leadership team could have performed better despite these circumstances. Our job is to adapt, change, improve, and perform despite the challenges in this world. We can and will do better. And I feel like this guy's like talking to me like he's my dad or something. He's like trying to console me and telling me, he's like, listen, son, I effed up, but we're going to make things right. Also, you have no job. In particular, the integration process of BuzzFeed and Complex and the unification of our two business organizations should have been executed faster and better. The macro environment is tough, but we had the potential to generate much more revenue than we delivered over the past 12 months. Additionally, I made the decision to overinvest in BuzzFeed News because I love their work and mission so much. This made me slow to accept that the big platforms wouldn't provide the distribution or financial support required to support premium, free journalism, purpose-built for social media. More broadly, I regret that I didn't hold the company to higher standards for profitability, to give us the buffer needed to manage through economic and industry downturns and avoid painful days like today. Our mission, our impact on culture, and our audience is what matters most, but we need a stronger business to protect and sustain their important work. Please know that we exhausted many other cost-saving measures to preserve as many jobs as possible. We're reducing budgets, open roles, travel and entertainment, and most other discretionary non-revenue generating expenditures. Just as we reduced our footprint in NYC last year, we will be reducing our real estate in Los Angeles from 4 buildings down to 1, which saves millions in costs as well as mirrors our current hybrid state of work. Damn, this company is like really downsizing. They really got in over their heads, I guess. I've learned from these mistakes, and the team moving forward has learned from them as well. We know that the changes and improvements we are making today are necessary steps to building a better future. Over the next couple of months, we will work together to run a more agile and focused business organization with the capacity to bring in more revenue. We will concentrate our news efforts in HuffPost, a brand that is profitable with a highly engaged, loyal audience that is less dependent on social platforms. So right here, he's basically referencing the fact that BuzzFeed doesn't have a very loyal audience. A lot of the time, they were relying on like one-off viral articles to get attention, and now that they're not able to pull that, now they're not able to get that through Facebook, they're basically really struggling to make ends meet. Whereas Huffington Post has a more loyal audience that I guess has a bunch of like just regular readers that will read whatever they put out. We will empower our editorial teams at all of our brands to do the very best creative work and build an interface where that work can be packaged and brought to advertisers more effectively. It might not feel this way today, but I'm confident the future of digital media is ours for the taking. Our industry is hurting and ready to be reborn. We are taking great pains today, and we will begin to fight our way to a bright future. On Monday, we'll begin to have conversations with each division about the way forward, and in the meantime, I hope you can take time for yourselves this weekend. Thank you for supporting one another on a difficult day. And this letter is certainly more heartfelt than most CEOs put out, which I think does make BuzzFeed a bit unique. You know, they were always a bit of an oddball because of their quirky personality that was portrayed in all of their work as far as BuzzFeed itself. BuzzFeed News is kind of a different story. Some would call this personality annoying, and in fact, a lot of journalists and YouTubers alike are currently celebrating the destruction of BuzzFeed News, but I will say at least the tone of this letter is much preferable to, whatever the fuck this is.
Don't ask about what are we going to do if we don't get a bonus. Get the damn $26 million. Spend your time and your effort thinking about the $26 million we need and not thinking about what you're going to do if we don't get a bonus. All right? Can I get some commitment for that? I would appreciate that. I had an old boss who said to me one time, you can visit Pity City, but you can't live there. So people, leave Pity City. Let's get it done. Thank you. Have a great day.
Facebook basically overnight, as far as I can tell, stopped being a major driver of traffic for news, and that really was a big source of issues for the company because it basically stopped being able to make money overnight. I mean, in that letter, the CEO says as much. He says he loved the outlet's work, and that's why he dumped money into it at a loss. But ultimately, the powers that be were just not willing to throw BuzzFeed News a bone, and as a result, their articles did not get any clicks. They could not serve ads to people, and they had to be shut down because no one reads their articles. I don't think anyone read them anyway, but according to numbers being released, someone was reading them up until around 2020 when the algorithm changed and they started getting butt-fucked. Metaphorically speaking, of course.
We will certainly miss such classics as 37 Things White People Need to Stop Ruining in 2018, 20 Reasons Why White People Can't Be Trusted, written by someone who looks white to me, but what do I know?
Sounds like you don't like white people, Robbie.
I just hate them.
But I've seen a lot of these tweets celebrating BuzzFeed being shut down. I know Shoe-on-Head made one that made it seem, at least, it seemed to imply to me that the whole company was being shut down. It was like a BuzzFeed cringe compilation, BuzzFeed getting destroyed, haha, they're fucking owned or whatever. End of an era. But it's really not the end of an era, is it? So that's wrong, isn't it? The news sector, which is like the 15% of the company that was kind of good sometimes, is being shut down. And that's not even the part of the company that everyone railed against. That's not the part of the company that Shoe-on-Head made videos about back in the day. The rest of BuzzFeed, which is the fucking cancer schlock of the internet with these terrible titles, like once again, 37 Things White People Need to Stop Ruining in 2018, right? 20 Reasons Why White People Can't Be Trusted. How privileged are you? White people read this before you text your black friends, like all of these terrible article titles. That part of the company is still around, and they're still going to be putting out that kind of stuff. I mean, ironically, a lot of the people who hate BuzzFeed for bad journalism refuse to read a But no, BuzzFeed is gone forever. Yes, it's destroyed. Yes, the West is saved. No, we're actually doomed. It is over. There is no hope. You should give up right now. And on a side note, one thing I did like from BuzzFeed was BuzzFeed Unsolved, which was pretty decent. But it seems like a lot of companies in the tech and culture space are amidst a lot of layoffs right now, which is making me thankful that I don't depend on these people for a job because, well, I'm a YouTuber. YouTube, please be nice to me. I've always treated you well. I love you. Follow my Instagram, Tom But Dark. New video tomorrow. Bye.